Yeah, my name's James. I'm a recovered jaywalker. Thank you for everybody putting this event on and perhaps inviting me to share here today. So I've been invited to share on more about alcoholism. Yeah. This is a chapter in the book that the book draws to 5 times and points you to at least read this chapter. Yeah, this is a big book convention. And there's been a chapter left out at the beginning of the book. Why is that? More about alcoholism. So most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally, just to say that's mentioned 36 times within this book, bodily and mentally different from our fellows. Therefore, it's not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterised by countless vain attempts to prove that we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. I drank and used because I liked it. Yeah? There's no other reason. I picked up drugs and I enjoyed it. Yeah? And I went with it. And I managed life a little bit. Yeah? But as the consequence and the relapse and the sprees got worse, I felt burnt and I felt awful and terrible after that spree. And I swore that I was never going to do that again. And I meant it. Yeah? It wasn't, I'm having a bad day, so I need to use heroin to take me out of the game for another 2 years. How the hell does that make sense? It doesn't. So this book is written by a group of alcoholics about alcoholism. Yeah? This is the most important chapter in this book. If you do not understand what alcoholism is, how the hell can you recover? Yeah? And how can you help others? You need to know what you're talking about. Yeah? Because you've got the power to save other people's lives. This is deadly serious. As Donald said earlier, we had a member recently that had been given so much false information, had been brainwashed, that when we're presented with this information, he can't make sense of it because of all of his other strategies and illusions. Yeah? And he relapsed. I was having a bad day, so I died. It doesn't make sense. This poor kid, yeah? And this is why it's important to know what you are talking about. Yeah? So the common thread of this book is relapse, yeah? The mental state, the queer mental condition, the peculiar mental twist, the strange mental blank spot, and the curious mental phenomenon. I can't bring into my consciousness with sufficient force the memory or the suffering of a week or a month ago, yeah? So that gives you some examples on alcoholism. And trust me, my friend recently reached out to this fellowship and asked 20 people what it meant to be an addict. And he got about 18 different answers. Yeah? It was in the doctor's opinion. No, it ain't. Yeah? It was, because I felt different as a child. No, it ain't. I've got a God-shaped hole. No, it ain't. It's not what it's talking about. Yes, some of us may have those things. I'm not discounting anybody that identifies with that. Yeah? It was convenient to say to others when I relapsed, because of my childhood. It was an alibi. It didn't make sense in the light of the consequences of what happened when I pick up that first one. And this book, this More About Alcoholism chapter, absolutely nails it, what we're dealing with, this mental condition. So it gives you a couple of examples, a few examples. Our first example is a guy that we should call Jim. Yeah? He is an intelligent man. Normal so far that we can see, except for a nervous disposition. Everybody likes him. He did no drinking until he was 35. That's interesting. I've heard that people say they were born alcoholics or addicts. But this guy did no drinking until he was 35. He was all right. In a few years, he became so violent when intoxicated that he had to be committed. On leaving the asylum, he came into contact with us. Yeah. We told him what we knew of alcoholism, the mental state that precedes the first drink. He made a beginning. His life was reassembled, because it's all about our lives, isn't it? It's about the fact that I can't control relapse. I stop relapsing, my life sorts itself out. I didn't come because I couldn't stop drinking. I came because I couldn't stay stopped. Yeah? Irrelevant of how I was feeling. Because some days I felt fucking awful. Yeah, of course, if I've just been on a 3-year heroin spree, I ain't going to feel too great about it when I've lost everything that's worthwhile in my life. Yeah? But there's times when I've rebuilt my life and I'm gone. Not a cloud on the horizon. Nothing going on. Everything was going good. And that's what frightened me around this illness. That it wasn't dependent whether I was... I'll get into that irritable, restless and discontented stuff in a minute. I'll blow that one out of the water. Yeah? So his consternation, he found himself drunk. A dozen times in rapid succession. Bang, mental twist. Bang, mental twist. No defense against the first drink. He agreed he was in serious condition. He knew he faced another trip to the asylum. I can see the consequences. If I do this again, I'm going to end up back in Cocaine Anonymous, prison, or in the ground. Yeah? So he thought that self-knowledge and that knowing the consequences was enough to protect him. Self-knowledge. But it already said we don't have the memory of the consciousness to bring the memory of the suffering of even a week or a month ago. So how can know about the consequences prevent me from doing something that I'm going to forget about in an instant, in a moment? And I don't even know when it's going to come. Because if it's not dependent whether I'm in a good mood or a bad mood, I don't know when it's coming, man. But I fall under the illusion and my illness lays dormant and I think I'm doing okay. And then suddenly the thought comes. Yet he got drunk again. No defense. So they ask him to go over his story, what happened, yeah? People latch onto this, so I remember I felt irritated. There he is, he was resentful. That's why he did it. Hey Rob, how you doing? Nice to see you, man. I felt irritated because I had a few words with the boss, but nothing serious. Yeah? Not I'm angry, I need to drink, man. He just said, I had a few words with the boss, but nothing serious. Then I decided to drive into a country to sell a car. I might meet a concern and how you doing? Cool. I end up in a roadside diner. That was quite common for travelling salesmen. People like to say, oh, he must have been on him because he went to a fucking place where they sell drink. Well, I go to loads of places where they sell drink. That's cool. Yeah. Still no intention of drinking. I just thought I'd get a sandwich. I also had the notion that I'd find a customer for a car. I'd been eating there many times during the months that I had been sober. He'd been there loads. It was okay, no problem. Absolutely normal. So, was his illness dormant? Was he under an illusion? What was going on? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He wasn't hanging on for dear life. It was okay. Suddenly, the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach. That is insane. He's not saying I'll have a JD and Coke, yeah, a mixer. He's thinking if he puts the whiskey into the milk, it won't harm him. Like you said earlier, my insane idea once was that I can't smoke it on the foil, yeah? So if I put it in a roll-up and add some tobacco, it won't hurt me on a period of not using for a period of time. And it didn't end very well, yeah? I was gone. I used that once. But I fell under an illusion because I was incarcerated, locked up, or I'd need a bodyguard to protect me, yeah? But because I was locked up, I couldn't quite as access it as I usually would. So I thought, I can control and use my drinking, yeah? Fell under an illusion that I can control it. And of course, I went out and not a cloud on the horizon. Again, it was a great day. I was released. I'm free. I've got somewhere to live. I felt fine. I was happy. And I was gone again. Thus started one more journey to the asylum for Jim. Here was the threat of commitment, the loss of family and position, to say nothing of the intense mental and physical suffering which drink always caused him. Not the suffering life always caused him, the suffering that drugs and alcohol bring to my life and his life. So I touched on he was slightly irritated, but nothing serious. The insane idea won out. Yeah, this is what we're dealing with. This amnesia, an attack of amnesia, that he couldn't differentiate the true from the false. He'd just been told he was going to lose everything, yet here he was all lit up again. Yeah, no defense. Yeah. This is what I was getting to. Page 37. In some circumstances, we have gone out deliberately to get drunk, feeling ourselves justified by nervousness, anger, worry, depression, and the like. Sounds a bit like irritable, restless, and discontented to me, and it also sounds a bit like the spiritual malady, which ain't alcoholism. It's a human condition. But even in this type of beginning, we are obliged to admit that our justification for a spree was insanely insufficient in the light of what always happened. We now see. So they are saying that they didn't see it this way in the beginning. But as a period of remaining sober for a period of time and reflecting back on those relapses, not how they felt using for years, we're looking at the part where they lost the power of choice. When I swore I'm not going to do it again, and I meant it, not going out on a Friday night and having a hangover and saying, I ain't doing that again, but really I know I'm going out on Thursday. I'm talking about when I lost control and I lost power. No choice. I didn't want to do it again. Not I still had a lurking notion that I could drink like a gentleman. I knew. Yeah? We now see that when we began to drink deliberately, yeah, I need a drink because of the way I feel, instead of casually, there was little serious or effective thought during that period of premeditation of what the terrific consequences may be. Our behavior is absurd and incomprehensible with respect to that first drink as that of an individual with a passion for jaywalking. He gets a thrill out of skipping in front of fast-moving vehicles. He enjoys himself. This is about progression. He enjoys himself for a few years. When I first went out raving, when I was about 17, I didn't go to the rave and think, I feel a bit uncomfortable in my skin. I'm having a bad day, so I'm going to take 3 ecstasy tablets and a gram of speed. Are you fucking kidding me? I went out because it was that's what everybody did. I just couldn't stop. I went out once and came back 21 years later, is what happened. Phenomenon of craving. Once I started, I couldn't stop. But I had periods of being removed from that, whether you want to call it a detox, a prison centre, being in a fellowship. And I put the drugs down, and yes, I felt bad. Of course I bloody did. I'd ruined my life. I couldn't deal with life because I've fucking been in full flight from reality for years. I couldn't deal with my emotions because they were new to me. But that ain't untreated alcoholism. That is as a result of blasting myself. If you got my mum, yeah, and loaded her up with heroin for 10 years, do you think she'd feel great at the end of it? She'd feel awful, yeah? But she bloody wouldn't do it again once she'd escaped it. On through the years, this conduct continues, accompanied by his continual promises to be careful or to keep off the streets altogether. Finally, he could no longer work. His wife gets a divorce, and he's held up to ridicule. He tries every known means to get the jaywalking idea out of his head. He shuts himself up in an asylum, hoping to mend his ways. But the day he comes out, he races in front of a fire engine. Sounds sane, doesn't it? Yeah, he's not saying, well, what it was, I was in hospital for a little while. Yeah, I reflected on my life. It wasn't that great. I feel really uncomfortable, so I'm going to throw myself in front of a fire engine. It doesn't say that. It says, the day I came out, I raced in front of a fire engine. No thought. This is smashing home the no thought between the first one. Yeah? Are we doing for time? Okay, that's cool. I'll start to wrap it up. I could talk about this chapter really for a long time, yeah? But see your man alone. So, I was burnt up, I was finished, I was broken, I was done, yeah? But how did I know what done was? If people talk about rock bottoms, there ain't no rock bottom, that's death. That's it. Conceding to your innermost self is the first step, yeah? And how did that come about? By being presented with what it contains in More About Alcholism. The guy matching his experiences, his mental inconsistencies, which linked to page 92, yeah? And if you're working with others, you should take direction from page 92, yeah? The first 48 pages are on alcoholism. The rest, they leave the drink question out of it. The rest is about the human condition, yeah? Not alcoholism. So what is? It talks about in this book an even greater service. So my experience is this. People coming in, they felt the first nip of the ringer. They do not want to believe they suffer with an illness of mind and body. They think they can beat the game, which it talks about in More About Alcholism, which is fundamentally a vision of looking at step 12. Yeah? So they're giving you what to do, how to approach somebody, what to talk about. Yeah? I guarantee most people that walked into Cocaine Anonymous, they ain't going to feel great. They'll identify with a malady, but do they identify with relapse? Because that's what we're talking about. So somebody comes into Cocaine Anonymous. I slowly pull away their strategies. I give them this information and pull away their illusions of power. Yeah? What happens is they don't believe they're in that class. They go out, not a cloud on the horizon, or there may be some shit going on. But they've got no defense, they've not had a spiritual experience, and they're gone. Yeah? And I stick around to catch those guys that come back through the door. Yeah? I stick around for them. As a friend of mine in here today says, I stick with the losers. Yeah? I stick with the losers. Because people can come in here and they're cool. Ain't bothered about ya. I don't mean that horribly. I'm interested in the chronic relapsers, yeah, that can't get this, that don't understand this, and keep chipping away at them and being there for when they fall down and giving them that hand when they need to get back up and matching their experience with what it says in the book and my experience of relapse. Once more, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink, except in a few rare cases. Neither he or any other human being can provide such a defense. his defense must come from a higher power. And I'll leave it there.